Welcome back, everybody. This is the Jonnymar, and I'm continuing with Final Fantasy II. So my last episode, we started the Soul of Rebirth dungeon. In this episode, we got to the town that is the hub of this world in the Void, or the Jade Passage, or Hell, depending on how you want to look at it. And that town's name is Makanan. So we're going to talk to all the people in town to get any information that we can about why we might be here, and kind of their reactions to being here. And you might notice some familiar characters. We're going to find Tabul, for example, the blacksmith from Altair. He's actually in the weapon shop. And in the bar here, we're going to find Sid and his underling. And they're going to talk a little bit about what Makanan is. And basically what happened was all these people got transported to the Void, and they decided to try to develop some sort of a settlement to try to protect themselves. So they fight off the monsters such as they can, and they try to keep the people safe. While we're in town here too, we're also going to equip my party members with all the best equipment that we can with the gold that we have, because we still have to do the Great Grind. And so for those of you who aren't aware what that is, as I mentioned in my last episode, the Great Grind is kind of a segue point between the first and the second part of this dungeon, where you have to basically build your characters up significantly over a couple of hours. And so I still have to do that. I'm going to spend a couple hours building up my HP, and also working on spells such as Teleport, and Mini, and Berserk. And I don't think I mentioned it last time, but I'm also going to be working on the Haste spell. So I have to build up some money and go back to the spell merchant and buy the Haste spell as well and start working on that. Although the Haste spell, you don't have to get quite as high as the others. Remember, you want to get Teleport, Mini, and Berserk up to at least level 8. Haste, probably around level 5, should be okay. And you're also working on, again, getting your HP up to about 2,000, at a minimum about 1,500. And this is just the first of the grinds. We're actually going to be doing another great grind after we do the stuff I'm going to be doing in this episode. So be aware of that. There's another one to go, although the second one doesn't take nearly as long, because you'll be facing much more difficult enemies that give you a lot more experience, and also a lot more spell power as well to your spells as you're grinding them up. So we just have a couple more people to talk to here. Kind of check around town here, see everything that's available. You'll notice that there are a couple of other portals in town. We're going to be going into both of those portals in this episode. The first takes you to a dead end, which is necessary to get one particular item that is technically optional, while the second one takes you to the next part of the dungeon. So I'm going to go engage in the Great Grind, and I will meet you back here when I'm finished. So see you in a bit. Alright, so many hours later, I am back. I have leveled my characters up pretty significantly, as you'll notice. I got all of the best equipment I could find. I focused Minwoo and Scott on lighter equipment because, again, they're going to be casting spells, so that'll increase their spell efficiency. And then I also focused more heavy equipment on Joseph and Rickard so that they have better survivability. And I also worked on their magic, of course, and leveled that up as well, which will help during the next part of the dungeon. So our first goal is to do the optional area of this dungeon. And that is to re-enter kind of a semblance of what was Mysidia Tower and see if we can reacquire the Ultima spell. Because unlike in the main game, Ultima is actually useful during this part. And the reason it's useful is because Minwoo actually has maxed out spells. He has 16 spells equipped, and many of them are pretty high level. So that by itself automatically makes Ultima more powerful for him. So we get the awesome Mysidia Tower music again in the Chamber of the Seal. And we're going to head up and go through essentially the same that we did before when we went to get Ultima. So Minwoo has to break the seal. Hopefully he won't die again. I'm not sure where he would go if he died here. I guess maybe to the afterlife or the void of some kind. He can go talk to X-Death maybe in the void. But yeah, he has to use his Balefire to destroy that seal. And we'll see what effect it has. It's basically the same scene from Mysidia Tower, except this time Minwoo hopefully won't die. Not quite a fireball, but still pretty impressive. So Minwoo is okay. In his undead form here, he's able to survive. So that means we can now access Ultima, but as you might expect, there is a hitch with that, or a catch. And that is it's guarded by a very powerful boss. So like in Mysidia Tower, you can actually go around and grab the stat increasing items in here. And so there is one for each of your main statistics. So there's one that increases your agility, there's one that increases your spirit, your intelligence, and your strength by 10 each for each one for one party member. And it is randomly assigned. So if you want to spend the time, you can save and maybe find a way to get a particular party member to get the stat you want. I don't find that to be too useful, so I just do it. I just get the stat on whoever gets it. And then once you're done grabbing the stats, we're going to head to the middle. We'll grab the Ultima orb there in the middle, and we'll take on the boss. So before I take on the boss, I am going to move Minwoo and Scott to the back row, because this boss does have some pretty powerful physical attacks. And so I want to make sure that they survive, because their spells are going to be very important. So who guards Ultima? Guesses? It is the Ultima Weapon, of course. A palette swap of the behemoth enemy. So our goal in this battle is to protect our two frontline fighters and berserk and haste them as much as possible. So we're going to cast single targeted protect on each of the two frontline fighters. And then we're going to cast Shell on the entire party to protect us from ailment effects and also magic. And so you have to do this. So I'm going to defend the first round with my two physical attackers while I'm buffing them so that they survive. And once you get protect up, you have a pretty good chance of basically nullifying Ultima's physical damage. So without any of the protect spell on them, you can expect Ultima's physical attacks to do around 800 to 1500 damage if he crits. Whereas when you have Protect on, they will do less than 100 to a couple hundred if he crits. So definitely it's worthwhile to spend a round or two getting that protection on. The only other danger once those two spells are on, or Protect is on, is his magic abilities. And so basically, once he attacks, if he uses multi-party attacks, they do very little damage. It's the single targeted flare spell that is really the dangerous one. That can do up to 1,000 damage in one shot. With Shell Up, it should do slightly less damage. You can also use, I believe, the barrier spell. It's either barrier or wall. That actually will protect you from magic as well. So put that up on your whole party, and that should lower some of the magical damage too. And then the rest of the battle is just a war of attrition. Keep attacking with your physical attackers, and do as much damage as you can. With Minwoo and Scott, if you do have any magic attacks, you can start slinging some spells at Ultima. They will do very little damage, but every HP of damage is worthwhile. So your physical attackers should be doing around 1,000 to 2,000 damage per attack, and then your spells should do around 100 to 200 damage. And so Ultima has about 15,000 hit points, So generally at that rate, it should take you around 10 to 15, maybe 20 rounds of combat to beat him. So not too bad. If you come in here without grinding, he will likely murder you. You probably won't stand a chance. So that's why we do the great grind, to make sure that we can survive. And that's about it. Our spoils for beating him are going to be the Ultima spell. And you can only teach it to Minwu. Ooh, this guy got hit by the 666 flare spell there. If you try to teach it to any other party member, it will not allow you. The game will stop you. And Minwu, unfortunately, has 16 spells, so you're going to have to discard one of them in order to learn Ultima. So I tend to choose a spell like Silence, which doesn't really help me in a significant way during this dungeon. But you get to choose. You can decide what spell you want to get rid of. Another option is if you have the Curse spell, Ultima is actually susceptible to Curse. So if you have the Ancient Sword, you can try attacking him with that. The success rate of hitting an enemy with the Ancient Sword is really low. I think it's around 30% as Ultima goes down. And then the success rate of actually inflicting Curse on him is also very low. So your chances of actually doing that, again, are pretty low. But if you do it, it significantly lowers his attack power. So using either the Curse spell, which you can learn from some enemies in the second half of the dungeon, or again, the Ancient Sword, will actually make that battle a little bit easier if you can get Curse inflicted on Ultima. But there we go, we have the Ultima Tome, the ultimate magic, and it will be useful during this part of the dungeon. So you can't teach it to anyone else, you can only teach it to Minwu. So I'm going to discard a spell, I'm going to teach it to Minwu, I'm going to head back to town, heal, rearrange my party, and then we will get ready for the second half of the game. So I will see you in a little bit. Alright, so I have healed, I've rearranged my party, and we are ready to enter the second part of the dungeon. So now we need to head through this particular portal to head to the rest of the Soul of Rebirth Shrine, which is known as the Unknown Palace, I believe. The first part of the shrine was called the Unknown Cave, and this is the Unknown Palace. What you need to do in this part of the dungeon is save. Save after every single battle, because these enemies will ambush you, and some of them are very, very, very powerful, and they will murder you mercilessly, very quickly. So you might be doing really well, you might have a couple battles like this one where you're facing some enemies that aren't really that powerful. You might get confident and think, oh, this isn't too bad, and then bam, you're fighting some Malboro Menaces or some I forget what they're called, but they're the Hexa-Eye enemy palette swaps, and they will do a multi-targeted death spell that'll wipe out your entire party. Don't take any chances. Protect yourself, save. After every battle, heal yourself. Make sure your party members are in tip-top shape. And our goal here is not to beat the dungeon. We're essentially doing a recon or reconnaissance mission here. We're engaging in what I call the Great Grind Part 2. So our goal now is to get our party members up to at least 2,000 hit points, and to also start working on some other magic. So now we want to start getting haste up even higher. We want haste to be around 7, 8 plus, and we also want to start working on the Ultima spell, because that is very useful in the upcoming encounters. So depending on what you face, you'll notice that some of the enemies can be killed. Ooh. And this is one of the worst mobs to face initially. The real danger here is those backline enemies, the mini Satans, or Satanas, because they have some really nasty spells they can sling at you, including death. So you want to try to kill them as quickly as possible. I like to use mini initially to take out as many enemies as I can to get to them faster, so we can get through these front rows and actually start attacking the back row enemies. but you can also start slinging some Ultima magic at them, and that typically, if it's single targeted, can kill them in a round. So it's up to you. Maybe you'll get lucky with Mini, that'll take them out, or again, you can just kind of grind through it, get to them as quickly as possible, and kill them fast. The second part of doing kind of a recon mission, which by that I mean we're going to be going down 3 floors. This part of the dungeon is, I think, 8, 9, maybe 10 floors deep. So we're going to head down 3 floors to grab the first of the specialty equipment. And then we're going to stop and come back to town to restock and do the secondary great grind. And that's because starting... Ooh, look at all that good stuff. This is another reason why we're doing this reconnaissance trip, is because enemies will drop really good equipment that you can start equipping on your party members. Some will drop black robes, some will drop ribbons, you'll get some protect rings, you'll get specialty like dragon armor, for example. So there's all sorts of goodies that the enemies will drop. And some of them will drop weapons as well, like new spears, new claws, new staves, etc. So it's good stuff, and essentially the enemies are pretty tough. Most of them have over 1,000 hit points, so they're not going to be easy to kill at this point. But because they are a higher level than the ones we were facing during the first part of this dungeon, you'll notice that your characters will also level up quicker. So you'll gain stats faster, and your magic, for example, when you're using Ultima, will level up much quicker. So that's why we're kind of getting a taste of what the dungeon has to offer. You're getting a sense of what enemies are available here and how to kill them most efficiently. And then you're also still building up your magic. And I actually got a Thunder Spear from that fight. I faced some, I think they were Lamia matriarchs, and they dropped the Thunder Spear. So that's pretty nice. We'll grab an Ether here. 1 item per floor on these first few floors. We have some other notable enemies here. The Gold Golem and the Chaos Rider. Gold Golem can do a lot of physical damage. With a crit, he can do up to 1,500 plus damage in a physical attack. And the Chaos Rider, what's most dangerous about him is that he actually has Osmos. And so he can drain all of your MP from a party member. So that's why you want to make sure that before you come in here, you're maxed out on things like Ether, ailment protection as well, because some enemies, for example, will try to petrify you. And so you want to make sure you have a good amount of all of those. I like to come in with about 95 Ethers to make sure that I'm keeping my party member... Jeez. Almost 1,200 damage there with that physical attack. That was crazy. But that's good, right? It'll actually raise my party member's HP pretty quickly. And that's what I want. I want my guys getting up to about 2,000, 2,500 if possible HP before I realistically start the real part of the dungeon, which is beyond floor 3. So we're almost there. We're almost to floor 3. We have a black dragon, very menacing looking. Wonder what our strategy is going to be. We are going to mini it yet again. And what's notable about dragon enemies is they can drop new spears, and they also can drop dragon equipment like the dragon armor. They're pretty rare to encounter, but they do have some really good loot drop if you beat them. So we took them out. Let's see if we get anything special from them. All right, we got a Holy Lance. That's pretty awesome. We'll stick that on Rickard, one of the most powerful spears we're gonna find, at least for now. Then we'll save and we'll move on, because we're almost there. We just have to hit these steps up here. Oh, sorry, it's a portal, not steps. And then if you head to the south here, we'll grab our piece of equipment, which is the Genji gloves. And then we will trek all the way back to town. I will heal. I will buy new equipment. Well, no new equipment, but new items. Make sure I top all those off. And then I will engage in Great Grind Part 2. Building my party members up to, again, around 2,000 to 2,500 hit points. Building up Ultima. Building up Haste. And essentially just getting myself ready for the true end of this dungeon. which is taking on all the mini-bosses, getting the ultimate equipment, and then finally taking on the last boss and killing him, hopefully, once and for all. So as always, viewers, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next time, we're going to get to the meat of this dungeon as we take on all of the mini-bosses. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. So long.